my friend and I were like, his name is Nell, and he and I always had like fun ideas. I'm just like, what if we like made our own like pop up?
Yeah.
And at my house, because we had a little garden and a little patio.
Yeah.
And I just would reach out to the vendors, and I honestly feel a little bit bad because I'm just like, do you want to come and sell stuff at my house? I don't even know who's going to be there.
Yeah. And welcome to another edition of Art of the Bay Sessions. Today, our special guest is Melissa and a bonus friend, as you can tell. How's it going?
It's going great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know this has been in the works for such a long time. I think I even brought it up maybe last year sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm really glad that we finally made the time to sync up. But yeah, how you been?
Busy. I
Yeah.
think everyone is doing their own thing. I've just been like hunkered away in the studio, just like keeping my head in the work.
Yeah.
But it's been great. I've been doing really well, just trying to balance work and life as best I can, but can't complain.
Exactly, yeah. No, I remember when we were syncing up that, you were just in the middle of just knocking out all these commissions, and I'm just like, I don't even know how you get into that mindset. We'll definitely talk about it later on, but yeah, it's insane to me.
Yeah, it's a hustle, but it's definitely the work that I love to do. So it doesn't feel like work half the time.
Yeah. I think that's always the hard thing to tell people when you're like, oh yeah, I do this and this is what I feel is work, and it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Usually we start off by just kind of asking folks like what kind of like if you can give us like a brief history of like your art career or just in general, like how you got into your artwork at that point.
Oh, you mean are we talking about deep history or just like recent history?
I guess it can kind of be a mix of the two.
Mix of the two.
So maybe it's just like, where you started at school and then eventually kind of,
Absolutely. So I always kind of loved art, always gravitated towards it. But I was like, my brother was the artist. So I kind of like took away, like I was going to be like the sports girl. And I was like doing soccer and stuff. So I only really re-entered making art at the age of 14. And I think at that time, I decided I wanted to be an artist at 14. So everything else in school just fell apart. Math, science, language was just like, no.
Yeah.
And so it just became like, I just was like practicing by looking at other artists, just like imitating a lot. And then I went straight to a local art college in Singapore called LaSalle College of the Arts.
Oh, okay.
And I did a fine arts bachelor there for like 3 years. And it was really fun, but very eye-opening to know that this is not where I'm going to earn money. Fine arts is really difficult. It was very conceptual based.
Right.
So then I went to apply to the Rhode Island School of Design and did my degree in illustration there. And that was fantastic. It was wonderful. I came out of school, was very, very lost. Probably more lost than when I entered school. I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I want to freelance. I don't know what that looks like. So after a year, because I'm a foreign student, I had 1 year of what we call OPT.
Okay.
And you're allowed to work in the U.S. Without having to change the legal status. Like
I see.
Yeah, so I'm still a student, but and on an F1 visa. So I figured out very quickly that freelancing without any network, with very little experience, wasn't going to work. It wasn't sustainable. So I went back to school. I got my master's in art education. And so I taught for 3 years in the high school art department in San Francisco. In a really cute private Catholic school. And it was really nice. Just a great season. And then finally COVID hit. And I was like, it's time to break back into my actual art making.
Right.
So 2020 came around. I worked from home a lot. My art kind of like expanded, and 2022 was when I got my studio with Helvella Art, and that's, I feel like, kind of like this big moment where everything kind of came together.
Right.
Community was there. I love the people. I felt like my following base was really strong. I started vending again, and everything just feels like it's all the puzzles are in place now.
Yeah,
the pieces. So I feel really good about that.
That's amazing.
And that's a whole history.
Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure there's a lot to cover in that, but yeah, that's always the hard part. It's like, how do I condense everything?
Condense it?
Yeah. Does your brother still do artwork?
He does, actually.
Oh,
so he went to Savannah College of the Arts.
Oh, okay.
And for the longest time, he was interested in sequential arts, comic making, storyboarding. Now he's transitioned into doing 3D modeling and gaming. So he built these models and robots, and he sells them as a kit.
Oh, that's pretty
cool. Really cool stuff. Like completely different from what I do, but I'm always just like, yay, good job.
So no one went the sports route at that point.
No.
Okay.
Or the academic route. I was just like, no.
Yeah. That's cool. Like I never knew that you had a whole family that was into the creative field.
Yeah, even my parents. My dad is an artist as well. My mom and my dad were interior designers. So when we wanted to go into the arts, you're like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
He didn't like push back for it. So we're really lucky that way, because I know a lot of parents are like, art is not a valid route.
Yeah.
So good thing we didn't get any like pushback from that.
That's amazing. Yeah. So it's all in the family blood at that point.
Yeah, I think so. We're all weirdos.
Who were some of your art influences? And I guess just when I ask this, it's always like a combination. It doesn't have to be a specific artist. It could be people also in your life that inspired you just to kind of go into that space.
Yeah. Okay. So I think my very first like oh my God moment was seeing my cousin, Lana. She was a painter, and she loved art as a teenager. And I would see like some of her paintings just in her room. She lived in Australia, so I would visit her for like the summer.
Oh, okay.
And I would always be like so enthralled by her work. And I just loved her spirit as well. I just loved her person.
Right.
So I think she was the first person that made me feel like, oh, I want to be an artist because it's cool.
Yeah,
I like Lana. I want to be like Lana.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that really, really opened my mind was my brother being the artist. My mom bought him a book of anime like inspired pieces, and it was talking about lots of different artists and all their different styles and their techniques. So it was breaking down all these techniques, and I wasn't really interested in that because it was all digital.
Yeah.
But I was interested in the final product and how aesthetically it was so cute and like whimsical and pretty. So I just remember like copying. For the first time, I'm just like, oh my God, I can draw.
Yeah.
I was so proud of myself.
Yeah.
It looked like crap, but that was the starting point.
Right.
And then moving forward, the Art Nouveau period was a really big one for me as well. Just how organic and beautiful and natural everything felt and looked. I love like the beauty of women that Muka like portrayed. I love like all these natural elements kind of plastered on. And then, with like Instagram and stuff, Archie Kawasaki was a big one.
Oh, nice.
Her like very whimsical kind of, again, like organic renderings of things was a big inspiration for me, with a lot of like just pretty things. I just want to make pretty things too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like I think that's always the thing. It's like we'll get into like art styles in general, but I think when you first start off, and either if it's someone you admire or just like books and everything, just getting that practice, it's just like you're just doing it at that point.
Exactly.
And then eventually you'll either get the hang of it, or then you'll see like, oh, what if I tweak it this way? And everything.
You'll break away from it in some ways. And that's of course like the ideal. You don't want to become that person because that person already exists.
Yeah.
So like you're just trying to like understand what they're doing that you like about their style, and then bring it off to a different realm.
Exactly. You had mentioned that you just got your studio. I forgot to ask you ahead of time.
Yeah.
So are you now doing your art as like a full-time kind of?
Yeah. So I'm freelancing full-time, and I think I've been freelancing full-time for 2 years. But this year has, like I said, or like 2022. Sorry, we're in the next year.
Right, I know. It's so hard to adjust still. Yeah.
With the prior year.
Yeah.
That's when I feel like I said everything felt like they fell into place, and it felt sustainable for the first time. So that studio honestly has been a huge game changer for like my art practice
Right,
and my
yeah.
mental health and everything in between. you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So far, what have been some of like the pros and cons of kind
Yeah.
of transitioning into a full-time position?
Yeah, so full-time position, the cons, obviously, it's very scary because the work is never guaranteed.
Right,
You have
right.
to proactively look for the work, look for markets to sell at, make sure that you are always pushing yourself to like think about projects you want to do. So it's
Right.
very like intrinsically motivated.
Yeah.
And so if you burn out, then you're really like that's your own responsibility
Yeah,
to
yeah,
have
yeah.
to balance everything.
Yeah.
But the pros is that it's so fun.
Right.
I think it's just like the best job. And I talk about this to my husband all the time. It's just like, I love the work. It's hard work a lot of times.
Mhm.
And sometimes you sacrifice, a lot of your pockets just to do the work that you want to do.
Right.
Because that's what you have to do. The hustle is there.
Yeah.
And if you have the work, then that's like the best thing possible. It's like you have a job, right?
Yeah.
So like just being like able to do all kinds of different projects at the same time is really great. I
Yeah.
don't like working on one thing
Right.
and then just like having that be all I engage with for like a month or two.
Mhm.
So being able to like curate shows or to do vending or to do
Right.
Kickstarters or to do like commissions, all of that is like different branches that I like kind of being able to engage with at
Yeah.
my own, time and space.
Yeah.
So that's a really big like pro for sure. Yeah. I think that's con is also like sometimes you feel really sad.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, am I good enough?
Yeah.
But that's just your brain stuff.
I think that's always the case when you finally just go all in on the thing that you're passionate about. Is that for sure it's the thing that you enjoy the most, but then there's always you also fighting yourself. That
Yes. Exactly.
It's the back of your head.
Yeah, and everybody's doing so well. Like everybody on the internet is just like, I'm doing all these cool stuff. I'm just like, I want to do those cool stuff. So it's just having to remember like you are who you are.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to embrace it rather than like trying to shift that to something else.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's okay.
We were kind of talking about that. Yeah, like we wish there was more of that kind of business side education before getting out. How was it for you? Like, was that pretty much you just learned as you go kind of situation?
100%. I think I tried to apply for some like classes that was like, oh, we're gonna like teach you how to manage your art business, and like, it wasn't what I needed. I think I maybe chose the wrong class, but I was like, actually, I'm just gonna learn from people. So when I see an artist do that, something that I was like, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I like either would reach out directly, and most of the time what I've like learned is like a lot of people, especially young artists and small businesses, they're not gatekeeping.
Yeah,
they're not
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to like hide their techniques.
Mhm.
In fact, like I had a friend who was more experienced with like filing sales tax. And I was just like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. And she like, we sat down for coffee for 3 hours. She like talked me through it.
Oh, nice.
So it's like a very like community-based thing where like if a young artist like talks to me about how do you think about inventory, how do you get prints, I'm never going to be like, go figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
It's always like, I want to help you like figure it out because it's really difficult and there's so much information. It's really dense.
Yeah.
And not everything works. Like my technique won't work for other people, but this is my experience and hopefully it'll be useful.
Yeah.
So just learn from others as much as I can.
Yeah.
I was reminded by my student mate Felicia
Mhm.
the other day that you are your community, you are your network.
Right. Yeah.
Like as an individual, you think like you have to do everything,
Yeah.
but people around you are like your resource.
Yeah.
So I just love that so much.
Yeah. I just in the last few years of just kind of doing this podcast and just talking to people at different conventions, you kind of sense that. Like you just see how much of a community is just within that space that they help each other, even at the shows. Like if they need to take a break or need to use the restroom or something, like you have like
you're all in the same boat.
Yeah. So it's like, I'll take a look at. I'll keep an eye on everything. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I love it. It's the best thing.
Yeah. How did you go about getting or I guess finding out about the studio space and then eventually kind of picking that one as your home base?
Oh, luck. Luck and timing. I honestly think there must be some kind of like good luck little fairy next to me sometimes because like a lot of the things that I've experienced or come across, in terms of people, spaces, it's all been just the universe, right?
Mhm.
You just kind of like find your way and then good timing kind of pulls things together.
Yeah.
So I was in Singapore on a holiday and I saw on my Facebook feed that Felicia, my friend,
Yeah.
was like putting up a studio.
Oh.
And honestly, I hadn't really talked to Felicia that much. I call her my friend now, but back then it's like
Right,
we've
right.
exchanged like minimal messages.
Right,
like
right.
I knew her work. So I reached out, I asked the prices, and she's like, it's X amount. I'm like, I think I can do that.
Mhm.
And it just, I came back and I moved in,
Yeah.
you
yeah.
know? And I didn't know who was going to be renting out the spaces there. I
Right.
hadn't met anyone. I just knew Felicia and Raul. I just kind of knew them, you know, just shoulder length. I just kind of knew they're humans.
Yeah.
And what an amazing like group of people that this like space now hosts.
Yeah,
And like, you know, we'd
yeah.
have lunch together, we joke, everyone is chill, everyone's work is awesome. So it's just luck, honestly.
Yeah.
And I'm like really thankful that, you know, they did this with the space because it's firstly difficult to find studios that are affordable
Yeah.
and find community that you actually gel with.
Yeah, exactly. No, I like, I went to the last show
Mhm.
and then, just seeing everything, like the space, first of all, yeah, it's really amazing. Like just, you get a sense as soon as you step into the room that
Yeah.
like there's that creative energy right away.
Mhm.
And then, of course, there was a bunch of other people because they were going to the
Yeah.
show, but still, it was just like a really good energy that you just
Yeah.
kind of showcase everything.
Exactly. I definitely like look forward every day I go. I'm just like, I
Mm.
can't wait to get to the studio. I hate to leave the studio.
Yeah.
I have to leave because I have to make dinner.
How, are you pretty much there from like morning to
Yeah,
evening?
I think if I'm disciplined and
Uh-huh.
I can get myself out of the door, then I will like get there as early as I can. But it's on average like 10:30 or 11,
Right,
which is
right.
still like later in the day.
Yeah.
And I stay there as long as I humanly can until I'm just like, I need to either cook dinner or order dinner.
Yeah.
So like till 8 or 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really good space.
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah.
it like a janky little part of like Oakland, but it's awesome. It's
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
oasis.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just like, it kind of reminds me of like Wakanda, where it's just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's just hidden in this area. And you're just
Yeah.
like, I didn't
You're
know
like-
this existed.
Yeah, you're like, I'm never going in that building.
Yeah.
And like, nor should you, but maybe.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And yeah, we were talking at the last show that
Mhm.
you're curating a couple of shows as well.
Yes, I'm
yeah.
curating actually a postcard show
Oh,
this month
uh-huh.
on the 25th of February.
Yeah.
It's a really fun one. I've done it 3 times now. This will be the 4th installation of the show.
Uh-huh.
And like it's all about affordable art. It's all about community-based art where like all the art is pitched in because I'm renting out the studio from the gallery.
Oh.
And that way, by
uh-huh.
renting it, I can set my own rules. And that is, I want to give all the money back to the artists. So
Mhm.
whatever they earn, they keep.
Yeah.
And I don't take anything.
Yeah.
And it's like small. So you can send it to people.
Right,
you know,
right.
we're going to have a little mailbox in the studio that the people can send the works to if they want to, like somebody that they love.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really fun.
That's awesome.
We're going to have, I think, 500 pieces of work.
Oh, wow. That's a
So
lot. Yeah.
hopefully it will all go well.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't done this in a while.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you, how do you go about just curating, like, I guess any scale of like a show? Like, how do you go about reaching out to people? And then the most important part of like actually putting it
Putting
all
it out.
together and laying it all out. Like, how does that process go?
It's firstly just being human with people. Just like,
Yeah.
hey, I have this show, and just asking for interest. If
Yeah.
they're interested, I send them the information.
hmm
And most people say yes. Other people are like, if they're not able to, they just tell me that they
Yeah,
can't.
yeah.
And a lot of the people I search are either people that I know. I already like their work, already follow them, already have a like relationship with them.
hmm
And this year, because like I said, my network has grown, and Felicia and Raul also know a lot of artists. I got a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
recommendation,
Yeah.
which is very exciting.
Oh, nice.
Also, vending has helped me be like,
Right.
I like you, let's do this thing together.
Yeah.
And then installing is actually also, this one will be easier than a lot of other shows because the size and format is so simple. It's
Yeah.
just in rows according to the artist. When you think about like curating a different show, like all
Yeah.
the small pieces and how they interact with each other makes a lot of like, you have to kind of work your brain around it because you put it next to the wrong piece, they both will make each other look bad.
Yeah.
So you have to find the right, arrangement. So that always takes some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fun. I love that. It's the best kind of work for me.
We are so excited to announce and invite everyone to our first pop-up event this summer. Join us on Saturday, August 12th at the Hayward Veterans Hall. Come meet and support various artists, food vendors, and small businesses from the local community. Free admission for all. Visit our website and social media platforms for additional info. Come join us for a full day of art, food, music, and community celebration.
The thing we wanted to do this season, at least in the first half of the season, is talk to various artists who also, are in your boat, where they're also vendors at these different like expos and pop-ups and everything.
Yeah.
Do you roughly remember like when you did your first like show or pop-up or something in that space?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
This was back in Singapore.
Oh, okay.
And actually I loved the idea of vending.
Uh-huh.
My art school would have like these little art markets like once a year. So I remember vending for the first time just in the school, and it was great. And then my friend and I were like, his name is Nell, and he and I always had like fun ideas. I'm just like, what if we like made our own like pop-up at my house? Because we had a little garden and a little patio.
Yeah.
And I just would reach out to the vendors, and I honestly feel a little bit bad because I'm just like, do you want to come and sell stuff at my house? I don't even know if it's going to be there.
Yeah.
It was really funny. And we had, I think, 20 vendors.
Oh, wow.
Bring all sorts of goods, like selling handmade, bow ties or like scarves. We had art, pieces. We had ceramics.
Oh, nice.
And my mom was like very encouraging about doing that, even though I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I remember the poster being super janky, really like badly put together. But those are like my first instances of vending or trying to like think about events or thinking about pop-ups. And then the US, I definitely like vended with like the school again at Rhode Island. They would have their craft fairs. I didn't vend a lot as a student, but coming to San Francisco, I think I tried to do like the one at Hayes Valley that's been bought over. The Urban Air Market.
Oh, okay.
It's now no longer. I think it's been absorbed by a different market, the Makers Market or something.
Yeah.
And that was like my first vending like experience. And the Girl Gang Craft Fair was my other first one.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I took some pictures from those days, like 5 years ago, and like my inventory was like so small.
Right. Yeah.
It was like, I have 2 pins to sell and like 3 prints. So it's been really interesting for that even to like grow, and it's always been a natural growth.
Yeah.
But it took years. It was like 5 years into it. I'm like starting to really figure it out.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, that was actually going to be a follow-up question I had, where how do you go, I guess it's like a 2-part question I had. How do you go about when you decide you want to make new artwork, and also how do you decide like, okay, is it the start of like a new season of like, I want to have new stuff to kind of have available for inventory, or how does that kind of work out?
So I've learned the magic of Kickstarter.
Oh, okay.
And so every year, the last 2 years, I had 1 Kickstarter each. And so I'm kind of trying to make it like a yearly thing where that's the most natural way to do inventory growth and grow like what you have, especially with pins, if you want to do tote bags or washi tape or t-shirts.
Yeah.
It's so much money to pour into on your own.
Yeah.
So Kickstarters are a great way to kind of like produce it, have people backing it, and then still having leftovers to sell for the markets. So it's a really, for me, natural way of like building the inventory without having to pay out of pocket.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of work.
Yeah.
But with prints and stuff, it's actually quite simple. I just kind of feel out how people are responding to it. A lot of people would actually tell me like, oh, I'd love to buy a print of that. And like, if I just really like the piece, I'll just make prints of it and see how it does at a market.
Yeah.
Because it's not too much money to like do 20 prints and just see how it sells.
Yeah.
I have learned though with pins and things that you order in bulk, it's definitely good to get feedback from your community, because I have done pins just rogue and be like, this is the best thing. I love him. He's gonna sell like hotcakes.
Yeah.
And you put him up and nobody touches. I'm just like, he's so cute. How can you not love him? So I've learned my lesson. Yeah, but that's like the risk. You make things, you store it, you hope it sells, and the Kickstarter, like I said, has been the best way for me to kind of figure all of that out.
Right.
The community.
Have you had to like what people call either like retiring or sunsetting some designs, or
Yeah, for sure. I think there's some designs that are really old, like
Mhm.
since the first time I started vending,
yeah.
that I've just now sold out on.
Oh,
like
okay.
it's been like 6 years. I've
Yeah,
had
yeah.
the same designs. I'm just like, oh my God, it's finally gone.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So those ones are retired, which is a good feeling. 'Cause You
Mhm.
want to, have new things to sell. And in terms of prints, there are a couple of prints I definitely have like retired mentally. I'm like, I'm done making those. Like
Oh,
it doesn't
okay.
fit my aesthetic anymore.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
Because
Yeah,
your
yeah.
creation changes as you change as well.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I was kind of curious, but
Mhm.
I think you said the perfect thing, because I didn't think about that. Like how,
Mhm.
yeah, you do evolve and you change, and
Yeah.
you kind
I
of
think
want to try
aesthetic,
different.
right?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Mhm.
You kind of mentioned with the pins, and just sometimes it's just not clicking.
Yeah.
Have there, or I guess maybe either from your experience or to give advice, like for example, like if you go to an event and there's either just not a good turnout, or in general you
Mm.
just don't sell as much as you were hoping
Mhm.
for, is there any advice that you would give to folks in that way, of like how to kind of embrace that and just kind of
Yeah. Absolutely. I think when the turnout's not good,
Mhm.
and or you don't get the people engaging with your works that you might have felt, it doesn't really link up.
Yeah.
Firstly, it's the events, like people who run the event, it's their responsibility to like push and promote, right?
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of people coming through. You know that the people who run the event have slacked or something went wrong.
Yeah.
So that's not on you as a vendor.
Yeah.
So that doesn't reflect your work in the world or the quality of your work or how people see your work.
Right.
And that's something that I think a lot of like vendors have like learned to embrace, doing lots of markets over the years. Like,
Yeah.
And if people don't click with your work at one event, it does give you an indicator of who your people are. So I definitely have tried selling in some events where there's some engagement, but not really. I like to tell myself it's a little bit mean, but I'm just like, they're too basic for my work. Like they're like, my aesthetic is like more whimsical. It's
right.
It's like pretty, it's feminine. So people don't click with that. I'm just like, you're just not my people.
Yeah.
And I'll go to last year. It was the first time I ever did like the Witch Fest in Alameda.
Mhm.
And that fest, it was nonstop engagement. And I'm just
Right,
like, oh
right.
my God, I never thought that this would be the place where
Yeah.
people really like respond to my work. So that is just all like litmus tests of where
Yeah, right.
where you should be.
Yeah.
And I've never done a convention like anime convention before. I've been told many times people think I would do really well. I'm going to
Mhm.
try Test the Water this year.
Oh, okay.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of like, don't give up, don't take it to heart. Sometimes also people are not in the mood to spend.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like seasons are big things. Like if it's Valentine's, if it's
Mm,
October, if it's like, holiday season where gifts are needed,
Yeah.
then you are going to see like an influx of buyers rather
Right.
than like if it's like spring and people are like, I just, ate too much. I'm like full. I've spent too much money over the holidays. It's now saving time.
Yeah.
It doesn't again reflect people's love for your work
Got it,
or the
got it.
quality of your work.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing advice, and like
Yeah.
I think it's hard to do it, especially like if it's your first time experiencing that, or in general, like if if you're already not in a good mood that day, and then things just kind of crumble on you,
Absolutely.
that all those things kind of get into your head at that
I
point.
think there's a few days where I go into like vending and I'm just grumpy.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm not going to sell anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to make $100 and everybody's going to hate my work. And
Yeah,
I'm like, no. I have to like attract people. I have to be positive, even if I'm like, I'm a terrible.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'll say too. In terms of vending, if you are sitting down and you look bored
Mhm,
or unhappy, you're not going to get engagement.
Right.
So you got to stand and you got to smile nonstop.
Yeah.
The entire time. Even if they don't make eye contact, you just got to follow them and like smile.
Yeah.
And that will help a lot.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the whole point, is like when I've run across you at these different events, like
Mhm.
you always make the time to kind of just like chat and
Of
get
course, yeah.
just to catch up too.
Mhm.
I know you had just mentioned that you're about to go into like these larger spaces. From talking to other people, they've said like it's a mixed bag, where like they either do these large ones or these more kind of intimate ones that are just in the local markets.
Mhm.
And there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
They would say like, yeah, the larger ones, because of how large they are, it's harder to engage with like
Mhm.
your supporters and everything
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Is that one aspect that you really enjoy? Speaking of which, since we do chat at
Yes.
these various pop-ups, that you enjoy
100%.
just like getting to meet people and
Yeah.
hearing like why they enjoy your work, or in general, just want to know how you go about doing your work.
Absolutely. So when it's actually quiet
Yeah.
and you maybe get like 30% of what you're expecting in terms of people visiting your store,
Yeah.
I honestly take that as a time to really engage with the people. Like I'm like, oh, I have a chance to really spend time with you.
Yeah.
And you will still find people who want to like really talk to you or like are looking at your work. So I see that as a great opportunity to kind of like be real. Like you're
Mhm.
human. I'm not just trying to push goods on people,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I'm not trying to like look at you as like, oh, that's a wallet. You know? A walking wallet, come here.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, like my work is an extension of myself. You
Mhm.
are engaging with like my creations. And when when you're able to like talk about what a piece means to you or where it came from, even if it's silly or if it's personal,
Right.
it's still like, it's a nice way for the patrons or the viewers to kind of see past just the surface level of what it is.
Yeah.
Right? So I love that. I also do love making money.
Mhm. Yeah, of
So,
course. Yeah.
in those busy times, I do feel sad it's not as personal. I can't really like engage. And I do feel like in really crowded scenarios, people feel almost like they don't want to take up too
Yeah,
much
yeah.
space or
Mhm.
time. So they're rushing through the work.
Yeah.
So it's a different vibe for sure. And I think we all just have to kind of like navigate that accordingly and try to be as like warm and as authentic as we can in the moment.
Yeah.
Like depending on like what you're able to give in that space. But I always try to be like, I'm a human being.
Yeah, yeah,
and the fact that you are willing to support me, even if it's just to come and look and say
Mhm.
hi, it means everything to me. It means everything to my work.
Right.
So
Right.
I try to like push that energy out. Like,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that energy at all these shows. Even at the one recently at the which one was the outdoor one in Foster City, where
Mhm.
I think you're.
My tent flew
Yeah,
up.
I was like, still somehow you're in a positive mood, like despite all that.
That was scary.
Yeah. It was really windy that
It
day.
was really windy that day. I thought it was fine. The first day was completely perfect.
Yeah.
And then the next day I'm just like, I lost my tent.
Yeah.
It's gone.
I just see you with your umbrella, and then I was like, I'm pretty sure everyone else had tents.
I'm just like, yeah, I had one.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier with like the pandemic and also
Mhm.
just trying out different things. Balancing that with like your mental health and everything like
Yeah.
that. One aspect that I think probably people in our generation has had to deal with is like with social media, like how
Yeah.
trying to find that balance of how do I promote my stuff, but also not let this kind of take over.
Yeah.
How's your experience been with social media to try to find like a healthy balance, I guess,
Yeah.
in that sense?
Absolutely. That's a great question, I think. I think like social media, like you said, is a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
right? You can get super inspired, you can get so much traction, and then you can also be completely like drowned in content that like you either start to feel very, inadequate,
Yeah.
or that you're always comparing yourself to other people, or like people have like 100,000 followers,
Mhm,
and you're just like, why am I not growing like them? So I think the healthy balance actually comes with knowing like what kind of mood I'm in.
Mhm.
If I'm in like an active mood, I'm looking for things that are like inspiring to me.
Yeah.
Then it's a great time to scroll. It's time to like look for inspiration, collect information. But if I'm on my bed at the end of the day and I'm doing that, then I'm like, why am I not working? It's 10 o'clock and I'm still like, why am I not? I should be working right now,
Yeah.
So it's like the time of day and just where my headspace is really important for me to know.
Mhm.
And I have to stop looking at numbers.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
definitely experienced a really interesting thing with Instagram because I had a really good growth period for about a year
Yeah.
where I was going from like 5K to like 15K. And it was really, really encouraging.
Yeah.
And then I hit 16K and I stopped
Mhm.
for 2 years. It wouldn't grow. No matter what I did, no
Yeah.
matter what I made, nobody was like coming in and it was really weird.
Yeah.
So I just had to kind of like look away from that, even though it was like bothering me. I'm like, I'm not a number. My work is not a number.
Yeah.
And just trust that like if I am authentic with myself and like with my process, I'll, attract people who are wanting to see that.
Yeah.
And that's all I could do. So last year was a growth year. Last year I was getting a bit more traction. I was getting more
Nice.
engagement, probably from vending, probably from just being more connected to a community.
Yeah.
And that felt really good. So I just have to remember, like, numbers, like, of course, like, we kind of take it as a test for success. Like, if you have hundreds of thousands of followers, like, oh, you're somebody.
Yeah.
But that's not always the case, because
Yeah.
there's so many people I follow, and I'm just like, your work is out
Right.
of this world,
Right.
and you're like still like growing your following, which is like not an indicator of your quality or your person. So, like, trying to separate that is really important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like it definitely has been more helpful for me in terms of social media. I just only choose one platform. Instagram is where I post my stuff. I have a history there.
Yeah.
I didn't go into TikTok. I tried, and I was just like, this is stupid. I don't want to do
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Like, why am I making videos?
Yeah.
I just my website. So those are my two,
Nice.
places that I like populate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think you spoke on so many great points there as well. And like, I think it's always an indicator too, where in some cases where I see someone who has like lower numbers or whatever you want to call it, but then you just see how loyal like that community is for
Yeah.
them. Like, you say if they only have like 500 followers, but then you look at each post and there's so much engagement there, and
Yeah.
you're like, they already have people who
Yeah.
are really supporting them, versus like someone who might have like 100 or whatever, and then you look at it and it's like not that much engagement.
Yeah.
So those numbers
Yeah.
really can be very deceiving.
It's very deceiving as well. And I mean, like, I don't mean to be like judgmental at all, but I do feel like if you have such a big following and your quality of work doesn't reflect, like, to me, like, quality,
Yeah.
then I'm like, I
Yeah.
wonder.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Because those people are like, there are a lot of bots out there. There's a lot of fake accounts. There's a lot of false validation. So, again, I think for a lot of young artists, it can be really discouraging, because some young artists are like, how do you get followers? I'm like, it's just time.
Yeah.
You just have to like trust your process and trust the people, and like you'll find community, hopefully,
Yeah,
eventually.
yeah.
But don't buy followers.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah. I'm telling you, just stick to
it.
Stick to you and stick to your route that you're already doing. And
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah. I think I can't say it any better at that point. Going into your art style, like that's, like I said, ever since I kind of really started seeing your work back in 2018, from there, like before we had met, then I would see you at different shows. No, not see you, but you see your work at different shows. And automatically I knew, it was like, okay, that has to be your piece. Like there's unless there's like a copycat person that does it really well, I'm pretty sure that's your piece. And of course it was. And then just kind of finally, I don't even really know when we actually met, but just then just kind of seeing all your stuff and getting your commission work as well. Like, how did you kind of go about that point of finally realizing, or I don't know if you ever realized it, or
like style-wise?
Yeah, like did you ever finally look at your work and then eventually say like, yeah, that is my style? And then on top of that, how did you really narrow it down and say like, okay, yeah, this is what I enjoy kind of doing and pursuing that style at that point?
Okay, so this is actually where I think I struggle with the most, because I like doing a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I'll be like, I have no style. I feel very omnivorous with my like work. And even right now, sometimes I look at my body of work in my studio, I'm just like, can anyone tell it's me? And I get feedback like, people like, I recognize your work. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
How are you finding my work?
Yeah.
So it's a mystery to me in some ways. I know how I work. Like when I'm making the work, I know my layering techniques. I know the subject matters I like to paint. And I just follow that.
Yeah.
I just kind of do like the course of least resistance a lot of the time. And it works out for the most part. So I don't think I have the answer for like, how do I figure out my style? You know, because I still struggle to see my style, which feels weird at 33. Hopefully that will become more clear to me as time goes on.
Right.
But I definitely think one of the main things that people pick up on is my colors. Because that's the main feedback I get when anybody comes to my booth or my studio. Is just like, oh, it's so saturated. It's so bright. It's so colorful. And like, I love your color combinations. And I always tell them like, I never know what I'm doing. Never, ever. And that is not a lie. I'm just like, when I'm painting something, I'm just like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Don't know. So I think there's like maybe definitely patterns in my brain that like it knows what colors it likes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll test out the waters with like a new color.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's like just kind of following the painting as I go. So like when I start, if I put down a pink or an orange or purple, I'm reacting to that in the next step. And then I'm reacting that to the next step. It feels pretty organic that way. It's a little bit like a dance. But I will say that my last project where I painted 30 paintings, that was actually a really fun project because I was pushing the colors a bit more because I'm doing so many like pieces.
Yeah.
It's not good to keep for me in the same color scheme all the time. I'm also working with different flowers and different hand colors. So background colors as well. So that was a nice little challenge for me to kind of break out of my normal like schemes and normal like tendencies.
Right.
So I don't think I have style yet.
Yeah.
I just think like I have like descriptors that describe my work. Like it's whimsical, it's cute, it's pretty, and maybe a bit ephemeral, it's feminine. But like I do derpy little animals and like realistic hands and like don't know how they connect.
Yeah. But somehow people recognize it.
Somehow people recognize it. So the world, it does its own thing.
Yeah. I think I always kind of same thing when I do basic photography, whether it's like with my phone or one of these cameras. When I see it, automatically I'm just like, it looks super mediocre, like motel, like photography or whatever. But then same thing, like when anyone else sees it, they're like, oh, this is really cool. I like your composition. I'm like, no, it just looks so average to me. Like, I don't even know like why people say these type of things.
It's funny that way sometimes. Like you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, but thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So I can totally understand it. I've also gotten similar responses from other people that even though like their style is very distinctive, like they still just it's something where you can't really define it or own it or something like that.
It's really interesting that way because like I do follow a very good a big handful of artists whose style is like that. Like it's crisp, it's like recognizable. I can see it from a mile away. It's consistent. The whole body of work feels like it all gels.
Yeah.
I get so jealous. I'm just like, I want that.
Yeah.
But again, I am my own person.
Right.
It's okay. Yeah.
I think it's amazing, but it's also just one of those things where like, again, going back to the thing, like you just believe in yourself, and then as long as you're comfortable with everything, and people will tell you that you do have the style. So I think
just gotta trust it.
If both parties are happy, then just let it be.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, like, what would you say? I know this is probably one of the harder questions. Has been either some of your favorite projects individually, or like as a collaborative at that point?
Oh, interesting. Favorite projects. I've worked on some commissions. That was really fun. Like, I love it when people come to me and they're like, I want these 3 elements. And that's all they give me.
Oh.
And they're like, literally like, do whatever you want with them.
Oh, wow.
And those are my most favorite because they give me a bit of a story of what those elements mean to them. And they leave the composition, the colors, everything to me. So those are really fun to work with. I had a last commission with a guy, Stan, and I forget how he found my work, but he was getting it as a gift for his 2 partners who were getting married.
Oh, okay.
So it was like a very sweet, sentimental piece. It was 2 of their hands, and it was a surprise, so they had no idea.
Yeah.
And he wanted a little moth that like represented him as part of like the relationship, but it was a celebration of them.
Oh,
And as we went along, he was very like, he was actually a bit more involved than my other clients. He was very like, oh, can we make that hand like a little bit more this way? Can we have the moth a bit smaller?
Yeah.
But the collaboration together to compose the piece for this couple was like such an endearing kind of experience, which I love about like those one-to-one commissions.
Yeah.
I haven't worked a lot with editorials or big projects with brands.
Yeah.
So this is like where I'm like most comfortable. I mean, I'd love to explore different like, job opportunities, but in terms of what I've experienced so far, those are the kind of projects that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
It's when like there's like a conversation and there is like this sense of like a celebration of like 2 people or an individual. And I'm just like trying to help them put what is in your head onto a canvas.
to me, that's still an amazing thing with any medium. It's like, how do you translate someone's like vision into something?
It's the best. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, like especially when they come to you, they know your work.
Yeah.
So they want what you do already. Yeah. So you're not trying to emulate a different style or like do something that is not within your capacity. But it's like, it's so fun to take someone's brain and like image and just trying to like, I'm gonna make it. You just gotta trust me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bake it in the oven.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. With that, is there anything you don't have to give it away if it's something that you want to kind of keep it to yourself? But is there still a specific project in mind that you want to work on that you have in the back of your head, but just haven't found the time to do it, or waiting for a specific moment to kind of work on it?
Yeah, I think they're probably like two. So I have never had a solo show.
Oh, okay.
And I'm scared of solo shows because it's pretty high pressure.
Yeah, it's all you at that point.
I'm just like, maybe no.
Yeah.
But I actually do have a booking for a solo show when I come back, probably like in the summer this year.
Okay.
So that's exciting.
Yeah.
And I think the person who is running the mom and pop shop as well as the small little gallery is coming to the to our space, so I can actually talk to her. So that's really exciting. And the second thing I want to get into more is actually, like I said, a bit more commercial work, either with books or with editorials or with packaging design, something that feels a bit bigger. And I think that is not just because I think it'd be really fun, but also because I think it'd grow my capacity as an artist to do bigger things and to take projects that are not so insular and feel like so personal. It can expand a bit more and reach more people.
Yeah.
So that'd be really nice. I think it also will feed my ego a little bit and be like, I did a project and it's for this brand. Rather than be like, I painted the dog, which is great, but
Yeah. But it's kind of like how we were saying, you go into like a new kind of space that you've never done before, so you get that experience of finally working with things that you've never done before.
Yes, exactly. And it's completely different process. Like if you work with a brand, it's so specific with who they are and what they're trying to promote, and it's just a very different experience. So I would love to experience that in the future, hopefully.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, first, applaud for the solo show.
Thank you.
I will definitely make it out to that whenever that happens.
I love that.
Yeah. Before we head out, did you have any plugs or shout outs that you want to give out to folks?
I would love to give a shout out to the people running Halvela Art, Felicia and Raul. They're amazing artists, but on top of that, they're amazing people.
Right.
And I honestly feel like my 2022 was the way it was, which was amazing for me personally because they hold the space so well. Yeah. And they're so community driven. They, the way they interact with people and other artists and try to hold space for other artists is really inspiring. And so I just want to shout out to them and be like, they're great homies. They're great humans. If people want to check out their work, it's really good.
Yeah, for sure.
So those two humans, definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I just want I feel like we probably will do a part 2 in the future because there's so many other topics that we can go over and then updates on everything that you've done that it would be amazing to do a catch up. But I wanted we'll do a fake toast here.
Cheers.
A fake cheers. To all your success so far and to your future projects, like how you just mentioned.
Thank you so much.
We can't wait to see your success shine even more at that point.
I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and other social platforms to catch new episodes and updates. Want to learn more about the items and music featured in this episode? Links available in the episode description. Thanks again for listening, and take care.